Welcome to Gurukul Live Lectures. I am Professor Dr. Namita Rajput, Professor in Department of Commerce, Sri Aurobindo College, University of Delhi. As a part of the new undergraduate curriculum framework, we have some additions of the value addition courses, and in that series we have started with the art of being happy. In this part of my series of the lecture, today we are talking about the definition of happiness in the social context. So let us understand the definition of happiness in this context. In the context of the social factors, happiness is the positive emotional state, a general sense of well-being that results from the meaningful interactions with the other people. Being socially connected is a feeling loved and accepted by one's family, friends, neighbors, and the larger community. The factors that contribute to one's level of social happiness are the nature and the strength of one's connections, the availability of the positive social support, one's sense of belonging and acceptance, and the overall satisfaction gained from one's interaction with the others. So all individuals' social happiness can be defined by a pleasant emotions they experience in the context of their connections with others, including but not limited to joy, love, and contentment. All the parties involved are able to trust and respect one another and show the compassion for one another. Further, the social pleasure is typically connected to serving a greater good and making a positive impact on the lives of those around you. The acts of compassion, charity, and the community service are all examples of pro-social actions that can make people happier in their relationship with others. Now, because of differences in their value system, in the cultural norms, and the personal preferences, the elements that lead to social happiness may also vary from person to person. Having friends, family who care about you and who are just like you and who are caring about the feelings like you belong somewhere and enjoying the company of the others, they all contribute to your overall sense of social satisfaction. It is important to the people and it is linked to how the content and fulfilled they feel in general. So let us explore what are these factors. Definitely, the sociologists today describe the social factors as the circumstances or the situations that influence the people's lifestyle, well-being, and the level of happiness. The economic status, education, political affiliation, religion, birth race, security, and number of children, infrastructure, and the population density are among these characteristics. For example, your family's income level can influence whether or not you receive an education and the type of school you attend. The type of employment you acquire will be determined by the education you receive. So let us do the different examples of these social factors. First, we will discuss the security is a significant social aspect in society. People and security are very critical factors for a civilization to prosper, both collectively and also individually. The economic, political, and the cultural elements, as well as the demographics, are the sociological variables that have a direct impact on the security. Next we have is a gender. Most societies categorize people by sex and gender, often between men and women, boys and girls. Men typically hold a more prominent role in the society. The household duties, for example, are still mostly done by the women and are unpaid in most regions of the world. Next we have is a culture. The culture consists of a person's traditions, customs and beliefs, lifestyle and purchasing, the habits, education and sexuality. They are all factors influenced by a person's or the society's culture. Employment is a social component that affects people's happiness, prosperity, status and the health. Furthermore, the type of a job somebody obtains is determined by their age, gender, family circumstances and so on. So we can say a person's behavior and the manner of life are influenced by the social circumstances, and the sociologists define the social factors as the setting or situations that influence people's lifestyle and the well-being. Economic position, education, political system, healthcare system, culture, ethnicity, security, the number of children, infrastructure and the population density are among these aspects. So social variables are undeniably important for the society's wealth, health, peace and security. All the social variables must be accessible and developed for its members in order for a society to function. When one of these components is unavailable or underdeveloped, it has a direct impact on a person's behavior and the well-being. Now let us see the social factors in the context of happiness. In the context of happiness, social variables relate to the different characteristics of our social environment that influence our well-being and overall happiness. So following are some of the instances of the social factors, out of which first we will discuss the social support. The availability of people and networks that give emotional, practical and informational assistance is referred to as a social support. Having close friends who tend to have a listening ear during your stressful times, receiving support and understanding from the family members, seeking the counsel and assistance from the mentors are the best examples. Strong social support systems have been related to a higher levels of pleasure and the well-being. Next we have is a very important social factor called social interactions. Happy people have a very positive and rewarding interactions with the others. Having a loving and a caring relationship, deep and meaningful friendships or strong bonds with the family members are all examples. These connections increase the happiness by providing the companionship, emotional intimacy and a sense of belonging. Next we have is a social integration. Feelings linked to one's community, participating in social activities are examples of social integration. The participation in community groups, participation in local festivals and the festivities, and participation in team sports are some examples. Being socially integrated facilities, social interaction develops a sense of belonging and improves the overall pressure. Next we have a very pertinent and a critical factor called social comparisons. Social comparisons include comparing oneself to the others. Individuals make upward social comparisons when they compare themselves to the others and who are believed to be better situated in a particular areas, for example, wealth and the status. When people compare themselves to the others who are less fortunate, they make the negative social comparisons. Comparing oneself to a successful colleague, for example, may result in an emotion of inadequacy, whereas comparing oneself to someone experiencing greater obstacles may result in a feeling of gratitude and the satisfaction. Next we have is a positive social connections, such as spending time with friends, attending family events, participating in group activities. It leads to happiness. the shared laughter and the joy with the loved ones, engaging in a meaningful conversation or partaking in a shared hobbies and interest are some of the examples. The positive social connections boost the positive feelings and increase the happiness. Next is your social acceptance. It is critical for the happiness to feel accepted, appreciated, and included by others. Receiving good comments and the affirmation from the peers, being acknowledged and appreciated for one's accomplishments, or having a sense of belonging in a very supportive community are all examples. The acceptance increases self-esteem, social connections, and a greater pleasure. Next is the individual happiness can be influenced by the social environment, which includes the social conventions, expectations, and the cultural values. For example, societal values that emphasize the work-life balance and the leisure time may contribute to a higher level of satisfaction. Conversely, societal pressures that prioritize the financial things or the social comparisons may have a negative impact on the happiness. Next is living in a society that values the fairness, equal chances, social justice. It leads to the overall pressure. If you are experiencing a social equity, then definitely it is going to uplift your mood and the overall pleasure of an individual. The access to the quality education, the healthcare and employment possibilities are the examples. As in the absence of a systemic prejudice, societies with the higher degrees of the social fairness have better levels of pleasure and the well-being amongst their population. The next and the most important is your social identity. The degree to which people feel a sense of belonging and affiliation with social grounding can have an impact on their happiness. Identifying with a culture, religion, or ethnic group and participating in group activities, celebrations, and traditions are the examples of the social identity promotes a sense of belonging, pride, and, of course, the satisfaction levels. The next most important factor is a social involvement. Being actively involved in the social activities, volunteering, and contributing to the well-being of others can all improve one's own happiness. Participating in community work, charity events, or supporting the social concerns are some examples. The social interaction gives people a sense of purpose, fulfillment, and happiness. So these social elements, they emphasize the significance of the social ties, relationships, and the larger social context in shaping the individual pleasure. So it's worth noting that the impact of these elements varies between the person's culture and circumstances, and the numerous factors frequently interact to shape the happiness. Now let us see the relationship between the social environment and the happiness. The humans are the social creatures, and our social environment has a significant impact on our ideas, feelings, and behaviors. Happiness is influenced by the positive social interactions, supportive connections, and a sense of belonging. The social support can help people manage with the stress, worry, and other negative emotions, so improving their general well-being. Now, someone who has a supportive partner, close friend, and a feeling of community, for example, is more likely to be happy and fulfilled than the someone who is actually socially isolated and lacks the meaningful connections. On the other hand, unfavorable social contacts such as disagreement, bullying, or prejudice can lead to a dissatisfaction and unfavorable mental health effects. The loneliness, and the social isolation have been linked to an increased risk of depression, anxiety, and other mental health conditions. Loneliness has been dubbed a public health crisis since it affects the millions of individuals globally and has detrimental effects on both physical and the mental health. The social environment also has an impact on the behavior and the lifestyle choices which affect the general health and the well-being. The friends or the family members who exercise frequently or consume a nutritious diet, for example, can persuade an individual to adopt a similar behavior, resulting in a better physical and the mental health outcomes. Being in a social context where the substance use or other hazardous habits are acceptable, on the other hand, it might have a negative impact on one's own health. So we can say that one's social environment has a substantial impact on one's pleasure and the well-being. Positive and the social surrounding and the meaningful interactions can have a substantial positive impact on a person's happiness and the overall quality of the life. Now, highlighting some important points to justify the relation between our social environment and the happiness. Now, our feeling of purpose can be influenced by our social environment. Being in a pleasant social environment can really help us feel if we have a sense of purpose, which has been related to enhanced happiness and the well-being. The possibilities for the personal growth in a positive social environment, the possibilities for the personal growth and the development in a positive social environment can actually contribute to the happiness. The social environment can influence our self-esteem. Positive social interactions, supporting connections can actually boost our self-esteem and the confidence, resulting in increased happiness and the well-being. Our social environment can influence our stress levels. Negative social interactions and the social isolation can raise our stress levels, leading to a poor mental health outcomes and the lower happiness. Our perception of the safety and the security can be affected by our social environment. Feeling safe and secure in our social environment can actually contribute to the happiness and the well-being, but feeling threatened or unsafe can diminish the happiness. Our social environment affects many elements of our lives, such as our access to resources, our levels of social support, and our ability to cope with the stressors, all of which can affect our overall quality of life and the happiness. So finally, we can say our society environment has a significant importance and impact our happiness and overall well-being. So positive social interactions, supporting connections, and a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose, they all play a very, very important role in happiness. Detrimental social interactions, social isolations, and emotions of insecurity or threat, or other hand, can have a detrimental impact on the happiness and the well-being of an individual. Let us now explore the area of influence of culture and the social norms on the happiness. The influence of the culture and the society norms on individuals' contentment and the well-being is substantial. So we'll be discussing these factors one by one. The first is the sense of belongingness. The cultural and social conventions give individuals a sense of belonging within their own respective communities. When an individual conform to these laws and norms and feel affected by their cultural and the social groups, their identity and the sense of belongingness are enhanced. Belongingness fosters the social support, emotional health, and a sense of safety. all of which contribute to increased contentment. Next is your social interactions. The cultural and the social norms influence how individuals interact with one another. The norms pertaining to greetings, communication styles, social decorum govern the social interaction and establish the behavioral expectations. The adherence to these norms facilitates the smoother and more positive social interactions, resulting in greater social satisfaction and the contentment. Next we have is the values and the priorities. The cultural norms influence the values and priorities of individuals, which has an effect on their contentment. As indicators of contentment, diverse cultures may place a premium on the family, community, spiritually, or the personal accomplishments. When people align their behavior and objectives with the cultural values of their communities, their overall life satisfaction and the contentment, it moves up and definitely increases to a substantial level. Then we have is a social support. The cultural and the social norms influence the formation of a social support networks, as it provides the emotional comfort, practical assistance, and a sense of belonging. The social support is a critical, crucial detriment and determinant of contentment. The acceptance and the self-esteem. The cultural and the social norms influence the societal beauty, prosperity, and the acceptance standards. When the individuals conform to these standards, their self-esteem, contentment may increase. So we can say it is very essential to note that unrealistic or oppressive norms may also have a negative effect on the self-esteem and the contentment. And it is pertinent to note and recognize that the cultural and the societal norms can vary between communities and societies. We cannot have a common thread for all. What contributes to contentment in one culture may differ from the another. So to promote a pleasure and the well-being of individuals and communities, it is very essential to recognize and respect the cultural diversity while also promoting the positive and the inclusive norms. So by comprehending the impact of the cultural and the social norms on the happiness, we can promote a cultural sensitivity, create the inclusive environment, and assist the individuals in discovering the fulfillment, happiness within their social and the cultural context. Now let us explore one question: how the cultural values and the practices they shape the social interactions and the well-being. It's a very pertinent question to explore. The influence of the cultural values and the practices on the social interactions and the well-being is very crucial. First, we will introspect is a communication style. The cultural values influence how individuals interact and communicate with others. The different cultures may value the direct versus indirect communication, assertiveness versus modesty, and the individual expression versus the group harmony. Understanding and respecting these cultural communication styles improves the communication effectiveness and fosters the positive social interactions. Next we have is a social hierarchies and the role. Within a community, social hierarchies and the role are frequently determined by the cultural values. And these values establish the expectations for authority, respect, responsibility towards the various social groups. Conformity to these cultural norms promotes the social order, cooperation, and a sense of belonging, which has a positive effect on the well-being. Next we have is a collectivism versus individualism. The relative importance of collectivism and individualism across varies culture. So collectivism cultural prioritize interdependence, cooperation and group harmony, whereas individualistic cultures place a premium on the personal objectives, autonomy and individual accomplishments. So these value influences the social interaction, cooperation, and pursuit of the pleasure in accordance with the community's cultural norms. Next we have is the community and the social support. The community and social support networks are frequently emphasized by the cultural values. Strong social ties, cooperation, support are fostered in communities that prioritize the collective good, whereas the social support networks contribute to the overall well-being by providing the emotional solace, assistance, and a sense of belonging. Next we have is rituals and traditions. The cultural practices, rituals, and traditions, they provide a sense of identity and reinforce the cultural values. The participation in these cultural rituals enhance the well-being of fostering a connection to one's heritage, community, and the shared values. Next we have is a sense of meaning and the purpose. The cultural values and the practices give people a sense of meaning and direction in life. They provide advice on how to live in a fulfilling existence, define success, and set the goals that are very consistent with the cultural values. So, having a sense of purpose and meaning is associated with a greater well-being and the life satisfaction. Thank you so much.